And we're on. It's funny because I don't even have that many, I don't have any commercial stuff. Usually I get a little time with that. Okay, you ready?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
You do.
Okay, here we go. Welcome. You're listening to The Best of Investing. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Rob Spinoza of RPM Mortgage. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. You're going to use that number to answer the trivia questions for a 5-pack tanning certificate given away during the show. That certificate, or those certificates, I should say, are not sponsored by the radio station, but by Tan Bella Tanning Salon, with 2 locations in San Francisco and 1 in Marin. Today's trivia theme is just a random trivia.
Duh.
Yes.
That'll narrow it down.
Yeah. And because you have a lot of stuff to talk about today, Rob, I kicked everybody else off the
Oh,
show.
cool.
So it's just mono-y-mono.
Thought it was my, maybe I had worked out a little too much in the morning and not showered enough.
Yeah. No, that's not the case.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you got for us?
So, one question we get, I'm in residential lending, as you know, but maybe not all the listeners know. But so I do residential mortgages, and one of the common questions that people ask us at the outset is, hey, look, I want to get pre-approved for a loan, or I've been told by my real estate agent that I need to get pre-approved for a loan, but I don't want you to pull my credit, right?
Yeah.
The reason they have this concern is that if they make an inquiry into their credit score, that it's going to hurt their score just by having a lender pull their credit report. So one article that I found very interesting was it was on CNN FM, and it talked about Americans in general, their credit score is going up. And what that does is, so the Fair Isaac model has been tracking this since 2005, and what they're seeing is over time, it's hit a new milestone. So here in 2017, 12 years later, the average FICO score for Americans is about 700, which is
Really?
not
Good.
all that bad. I mean,
Yeah.
if you thought about average years ago, might have been influenced by the whole subprime idea. But what they attributed to is a strong job market, improving home values, and just overall financial strength in the United States.
What was in 2005 the average FICO score?
Well, it said it spanned from 670 to 739, and it started with a 688 in October of 2005. So to give you some perspective on that, if you go to get a home loan and your scores range between 720 and 740, that's pretty darn good. So above 740, you're pretty much in the top tier for most loan programs.
And back between 2005 and today, have they changed the criteria at all?
Absolutely, that you hit the nail on the head.
Okay, there you
Right.
go.
Yeah. So what you've seen now, Fannie Mae implemented what are known as loan level price adjustments as a sort of a side effect of the downturn. And what they did is they set FICO tiers, so 680 to 700, 700 to 720, 720 to 740, and then overlaid those on loans to value, or loan to value. So if you had a high loan to value with a low FICO, you're piling on these adjustments to the interest rate. Okay. So why it
That's
matters?
more risky for the bank.
It's more risky for the bank or the ultimate holder or investor in the loan. And so what we're seeing now is as that 700 comes up for the average, obviously helping those looking to purchase a home. And the reason I bring it up is because I think it's natural to have that concern that if somebody looks at your credit, it's going to hurt it, because we've all been told too many inquiries hurts my score.
Yeah, and hard pulls.
Hard pulls with soft pulls, and how does it all break down? So a lot of individuals these days, especially here in the Bay Area, they use some sort of credit tracking, Credit Karma. There's I know if you have an American Express, sometimes it'll tell you what your FICO scores are.
Yeah.
These are good indicators, but they are not the gospel when it comes to making a mortgage inquiry, because a lender's going to pull a hard pull on so it's going to get all 3 repositories, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, and you're going to get a score for each of those. And lenders are generally going to use the middle score of those 3. So I think people need to know that by making an inquiry for a mortgage, in and of itself, if all other things are equal, it's not detrimental to your credit. I've been doing this a long time, and I've never seen a case where a credit-worthy customer who pays his bills on time, who maintains a good balance to limit on his credit cards, who has a good credit history and a blend of credit, a single inquiry by mortgage lender is not going to hurt you.
However, since they do a hard pull, it will drop about 4 points, right? So yeah, going from 754 to 750 is not going to change.
Not material.
No.
And even those sort of rules on that, we don't see that consistently. So it really again depends on the borrowers, where they're starting from and their overall credit depth to see. Inquiries touch an overall 10% of the borrower's FICO score. So in and of itself, it's not a big mover when the person already has good credit. What we do see, in fairness to the sort of myth, you'll sometimes get a client who will have derogatory items and other things on their credit, far bigger matters.
Yeah.
And you pull their credit and I thought my score was 750 and now it's 650. It just doesn't work that way. It's those are derogatory items that are causing the score to be
to be that
right.
detrimental.
Right. And those are big events. Those are foreclosure, short sales, consistent missed payments, that sort of stuff. That pattern will hurt your score far more than anything.
Okay, when we come back, I've been taking little notes here because when we come back, I do have a story where it actually did make the difference.
Okay.
And it's kind of an exciting story.
Happy to feel that one.
Yeah, so audience, you're going to want to stay tuned to hear that story because that pull of the credit actually did make a big difference for this client. Okay, so we're going to go to our first trivia question, and here it is. When first founded by Benjamin Franklin, what was the job of the, quote, bucket brigade? All right, that's our trivia question, and the first caller with the correct answer is going to win that free 5-pack tanning certificate. Now, that tanning certificate is worth quite a lot because you can use it for any of their any of their services. And some of their services are inexpensive, and some are kind of expensive.
I get tan looking out the window.
Yeah, that's
with
what
my
you
complexion.
do, yes. But
never been in a tanning.
Work hard. Well, yeah, because what's your nationality?
Italian.
Yeah, there you go. Get that olive
Southern
skin.
at that.
Yeah, so you just kind of walk out and you
That's right.
can. All right, so call 888-912-1190 to answer that question. When first founded by Benjamin Franklin, what was the job of the bucket brigade? Again, 888-912-1190. Don't touch that dial. The Best of Investing will be right back. All right. Cool. Good. What was your little one now?
He's going to be 5 in August. Yeah. Incredible.
So we going to kindergarten?
I think we're going to keep him in preschool for another year.
He'll hate you later on.
I don't know. The science on boys now is still just not.
No, I mean, how
Yeah.
Dad, I'm the oldest one in my class.
Yeah, unless,
Yeah. Listen, we're 5 years old. I like preschool.
I'll tell you this quick story about a kid I went to high school with who was a great pitcher. He was lights out. No one could touch him. We couldn't figure out why, but now that I'm great Facebook friends, turns out he's a year older than everybody. He's just right. Makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Changed his self-esteem for sure.
That's a good point. Yeah. See, I always wanted to be older because I had older brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. Edward Brown here along with Rob Spinoza. First trivia question was, when first founded by Benjamin Franklin, what was the job of the bucket brigade?
I'm going to say it was a fire department.
Yeah, it was to put out fires. That's right. I guess they had a volunteer fire department back then. Well, they still do now, but a little different. They didn't have the hoses and stuff, so they had to get the buckets. All right, so
that's when fire danger was real. real.
Yeah. Made wood and straw.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so before we got the break, I was teasing the audience about how I was going to give a story about how the hard pull of credit actually did affect this one borrower. So, I work with Mark Conniff with Pacific Private Money, and he does private real estate loans. So a lot of times people will come to you first, and if they can't get a conventional loan, then they'll solve the problem. We got to solve the problem somehow. Okay, so there was this borrower who was buying her dream home in Half Moon Bay.
Okay.
She was buying a property for, I believe it was, let's say, $1 million. She was putting 400,000 down.
Safe
So
money.
she- Right, pretty safe. 60% loan to value. Her family was in the oil business,
Okay.
to where it was like so many generations. She was making 50,000 a month
Royalties.
royalties
Yeah.
from the oil. Okay. The problem was that her sister basically managed the checkbook, the finances, and all
Okay.
that stuff. And sister kind of blew it a couple times with
Payments.
payments and
Yeah.
Macy's bills and
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. So she had a FICO score of, I believe, 623.
Okay. Coming near a threshold.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the broker was trying to get her FHA financing, which is the minimum 620.
For a while was with a lot of
For was
places,
okay. This was a few. This loan was a couple years ago. So the broker says, yeah, no problem. You're at least 3 points over, so
Right.
we'll get you the FHA financing. About 2 weeks before, the broker was getting a little nervous that we're getting really kind of close here. So I'm gonna-
Expiration of the credit
expiration,
report.
yeah. Well, just the whole idea of
Okay.
the closing of the deal.
Okay.
So the broker decides to do a hard pull on the credit just
Okay.
to make sure that everything else is okay.
Oh, no
right?
other data or anything like that.
Exactly. Well, that dropped 4 points down to 619.
Can't do it.
FHA said, that's not 620. We're not
Yeah.
going to do the
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
So now she's got a $25,000 non-refundable deposit. She wants to close on her dream home, and she can't do it.
Can't do it.
Excuse me. And so Pacific Private Money made her that loan. It was more expensive. But then
There's the
after...
deposit.
Yeah, exactly, and her dream home.
Right.
So after about 6 months, she was able to get the credit score
Yeah.
back up and refinance. So, wasn't great.
That's
for
the
her.
threshold thing. So when you work with a mortgage lender, those are the things to be aware of, because when you cross those thresholds, some programs have hard and fast. If it's below this, you just can't get it. And so 623 right there, that's a red flag. You're close to the 620 mark. Will your investor cut off at 620? One thing I did want to say earlier in the segment. So I'm glad they solved that, because that is difficult. Once you have a credit report and you have an item on there, the ability to rescore it higher while it exists, some banks won't touch that. They won't do that. They won't let you rescore the credit report. And once you do attempt to rescore it, a rescore is a process by which you do certain things to your credit trade lines so that you can get a new score quickly. Okay, so let's say somebody had the most common one is they've got a derogatory item. Somebody is reporting to their report. Let's say it's Macy's is a bad example because they're not good at doing this. But let's say it's a store and you had a store credit card and they registered a 30-day late. Okay, borrower didn't pay the bill in 30 days. Ding on their credit report. Sometimes you can call that store or that company and say, hey, I have a 5-year history of paying bills on time with you. Will you do a one-time courtesy deletion? And they'll agree to do it. And what they'll do is they'll provide a letter, and we will take that letter, provide it to the bureaus, and the bureaus will quickly rescore the report.
Gotcha.
And you can see a dramatic change.
Okay, so one of the changes that I made, and I don't know, I think this is pretty good advice, I think. This is what I did for myself, so I'll just say that it worked for me, is I still do electronic banking with my bank.
Okay.
And originally I set up for credit cards that I never want to pay interest, never want to pay late fees, or any of that stuff.
Paid in full every month.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I set it up with my bank as to, this credit card company, this is the address, the account number, and all that
Right.
stuff. And my bank would be literally sending out paper checks.
Right. I've heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what I realized was, what happens if the mail gets messed up? Not my fault.
Great example.
Okay, right?
Yeah.
And then even the bank's doing the correct thing,
Right.
but the vendor,
Right.
if the vendor doesn't receive that money, it's late.
Still late.
It's still late. So I changed, and what I ended up doing was for Chase, I go onto Chase's website,
Do a pull.
and I would on their website,
Yeah.
I would say, go ahead and pay my bill. Here's my
Right.
bank account information, and then they give me a verification.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because now it's coming from the source is going
Correct.
to get the money as opposed to the bank sending it to.
Yeah,
and
and once they give me a confirmation, then they can't undo it.
Right. That would have been a great example of a courtesy deletion, because if you had look, we didn't get the check out, and we can prove electronically that the check never went out, that would be a great case for something like that. And so one of the interesting things about a rescore, not to get too technical about it, is that the Fair Credit Reporting Act gives the consumer the right and the ability to appeal to the bureaus on something that is not correct with their credit. And the bureaus have the right to research that and get back to the consumer with the response. The problem is the bureaus are not sensitive to your close of escrow timeline necessarily.
They don't pay out.
They're like the IRS, right?
Yeah.
We'll get to it when we get to it.
Yeah.
And so if your back's against the wall in a contract, you can't wait around for Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion to hopefully adjust your score. You need to affect that process. So we at RPM, we run into that sometimes, and what's interesting is the consumer cannot pay for that rescore. They are not allowed to do it because the Fair Credit Reporting Act says that you already have the right to do it for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it puts them in a tight spot if the lender or the broker doesn't agree to pay for the rescore, and the broker's taking a chance or lender's taking a chance in doing that to begin with. But very, very helpful in the cases where it works because it's a game changer in those cases.
And when we come back from another break, I'll tell another
Oh,
story.
in 8 points this time.
Yeah. And this has to do with the IRS, with what you just said. All right. Okay, so here's our next trip. Wait, just keep leading right into these great stories. All right.
This is our daily life. I mean, this is one thing leads to another. That's the name of the lending industry, right?
All right, second trivia question. Terry Nichols was the co-conspirator in what major crime during the 1990s?
Oh, okay.
Call 888-912-1190 if you're the first caller with the correct answer. You're going to win that 5-pack tanning certificate. So here's our trivia question again. Terry Nichols was the co-conspirator in what major crime during the 1990s? All right. And when we come back, we're going to tell a story about how someone had an incorrect IRS lien, and it almost destroyed this person's ability to purchase a house.
Yep.
But Pacific Private Money
Stepped
came
in.
to the rescue. All right, but it's an interesting story, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right. Always want to leave them with a teaser, as they say. Do anything exciting this summer?
Oh, we were in Scandinavia for 12 days back in June. We went on a Disney cruise. Before you laugh.
No. I was on one. The entertainment was fantastic.
For the little guy, it was incredible.
It was really good for the adults.
Yeah. Well, the kids club.
Yeah.
So they give them an RFID bracelet, right? And the kid wore it the whole cruise.
Yeah.
And you drop them off at kids club, which he wanted to go to every day.
Yeah.
And then when you go to pick them up, they're like, "Oh, Robert, he's in the Oceaneers lab," and because they
know
track him through the whole freaking.
Yeah. Very, very safe.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah,
Disney, Jesus, it's not cheap, but they know what they're doing.
Yeah, we had. They do the face painting.
Yeah, they do it. Yeah.
So our kids were a little older than the years, but they
well,
still
it would work until I mean,
12.
Yeah, easily. But we were in Copenhagen, Stockholm, Helsinki, St. Petersburg, Russia, and Tallinn, Estonia.
Kid, you stay on the boat. Mom and Dad are gonna go.
A couple of days. That's what we did.
Did you really?
Yeah,
wow.
because he loved the ocean. I mean, he loved the kids' club. He didn't want to see Helsinki.
Yeah,
you know.
I know, and it's like you go, oh, wait a minute, but then you kind of realize, you know what, you have
4.5. You know. So.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Get your email too.
Yep, that's great.
Welcome back to the Best of Investing. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Rob Spinoza of RPM Mortgage. Triple, to answer the trivia question, Terry Nichols was the co-conspirator in what major crime during the 1990s?
Was that the Timothy McVeigh, Oklahoma State?
Yes, it was.
Wow.
Right.
2 for 2.
You're 2 for 2. Let's see. I'm going to see.
You're going to try and throw
No,
another?
not yet. No, we'll throw the next one on to you next time. So we'll see if you can get that one. All right. So again, story time. IRS. Okay. So this borrower was having a house built for him by a contractor. Okay. And he was qualified.
Okay.
But by the bank, no problem.
Construction loan?
Construction loan.
Got it.
Everything's fine. And the agreed house price was $1.5 million.
Okay.
Right. And he had a decent down payment. Everything's fine. Again, about roughly 2 to 3 weeks before he's ready to close, the bank calls him and says, Mr. Jones, I'm sorry, we can't make you the loan. what are you talking about? My credit's good and everything. Well, an IRS lien of $250,000 just popped up in your credit report. He goes, I don't know the IRS anything. And they said, well, as soon as you can correct that, we'll give you the loan. Now, how long does it take to correct an incorrect IRS lien?
Yeah.
6 months, maybe? If you're lucky. 3 months, 6 months?
Not any shorter than 6 or 8 weeks.
Yeah, and he had to close the deal in 30 days.
Yeah.
Or, in 3 weeks.
Okay.
And he had a $50,000 non-refundable deposit.
Okay.
Now, ordinarily, you might go, well, the developer contractor might just go, oh, hey, okay, well, let's extend it for you, right? The problem was that as the house was being built, some lady had driven up and said, what a beautiful house you're building. Can I buy that house? And he says, well, I'm sorry, I'm in contract for $1.5 million. She says, I'll pay you $1.75 million. And he says, well, I can't break the contract.
But
however,
but
if this gentleman couldn't have made good in the 3-week period, then he legally could have
backs against the wall.
He could have kept his $50,000 and sold the lady for $1.75 million. So his back's against the wall. He goes to Pacific Private Money in Novato, which, by the way, is 415-883-2150 for those of you who need money quickly on real estate.
Those of you who are building a house.
Or just, hey, things happen. Your FICO score's not quite there.
Or at 623.
Or at 623,
Right.
I mean, just they could do a lot of good work. And sure enough, well, I guess what had happened was he was able to convince Pacific Private Money. He could show, look, I don't owe.
Yeah, because that's risky for them too. I mean, if you have a federal
you
tax,
you just don't take their word for it.
Right.
I mean, he had to kind of show, look, this is what I owed before, and here's the check that cleared.
I get that, but even so, Pacific Private Money, like a conventional lender, I mean, an IRS lien is going to take precedence over any lender's lien.
But he didn't own the house, so the IRS lien was not going to go in.
Oh, it wasn't going to be okay. Got it. He didn't own the house yet. That's true.
That's right.
Okay, yeah.
So Pacific Private Money's loan would be, and then if for some reason the guy couldn't prove it, eventually a year later or something,
I didn't think about that.
Hey, IRS, right? So they would have been behind Pacific Private Money. So Pacific Private Money was pretty conservative on that.
So they did. So what Pacific Private did was they did the due diligence on the borrower's IRS situation.
Yeah.
And then made the loan.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. And their risk, even if the lien was accurate,
right,
it wasn't going to go against the house until after Pacific Private Money had made the loan.
Right.
So they were well protected.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, IRS stuff is we had our own personal experience that we bought a house years ago, and the seller failed to pay their income tax, and about a week before we were due to close, we got a call to say basically that the title had turned up a lien from the IRS.
Okay.
They attached it while they could.
Yeah.
And so we were at a standstill until we were able to get it.
There wasn't enough money coming out to pay that IRS lien.
There was not, and the sellers had to make some other arrangements to do it, but they managed to.
Now that could hold up a transaction.
That held up the transaction for 6 to 8 weeks. That's right. Yeah.
All right. So moving on here, we have an email. Says for you, Rob.
Yep.
Is it possible to buy a new home without first selling my existing one? My agent is telling me that I'll never get a contingent offer accepted.
Good point. Okay, so your agent is largely speaking the truth. In the market here in the Bay Area, it's very hard to make what is known as a contingent offer. And what that means is when you go to buy a new house, if you currently own a house that you plan to sell, in most cases, there is a section of the purchase contract that allows you to check a box that indicates to the seller that this transaction, the purchase, will go down if you're able to sell your existing house. And there are some things that are very important about selling your house. Number one is oftentimes you're getting the down payment from the proceeds of that sale. So you're going to use those funds to buy the new home. And the other thing is that you may have a loan on that home. And so if you were to buy the new home before selling the old one, you would perhaps not qualify with both mortgages. You couldn't carry both home housing payments. So if you get an offer accepted with a contingency clause, that's the seller is saying, I'll accommodate that sale first before you're out of contract. But in this market, sellers don't need or want that risk, right? So there's too many buyers. So getting an offer accepted with a contingency clause is virtually impossible. So the buyer then has the burden of proof on him. How does he get out of that situation? there are what I see is 4 ways they can do it. Number one is they can qualify all in. That means if they have funds for a down payment and they have enough income to support 2 loans,
Okay.
even if they plan to sell, right?
Yeah.
They're just going to tell the lender, hey, qualify me with everything in, and I'm still
Yeah.
going to buy the house.
Gotcha.
All good. That's the exception, not the rule. If the buyer has the down payment, let's say they have other funds or whatever, but they don't have the income to support 2 housing payments,
Okay.
they can use a program called a departing residence program. And what that does is it allows, and only a handful of investors will permit this, but they'll do a rental survey on the house that they currently own. Okay, so they'll say if you rented it, it would rent for $4,000 a month.
Yeah.
And then the bank, will give you 75% of that gross.
Okay.
So $3,000 in that example to offset your housing payment on that. Now, the important thing.
Well, the interesting thing is you're taking 75% of the gross, but there are expenses like insurance and
Of
real
course,
estate
of
taxes.
course. So you're still doing the calculation. If they have a housing payment of $3,000 to begin with, then you're even. Okay, so now you're basically just supporting the new housing payment. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what I was going to say about that is the difference is the conventional guidelines will allow you to rent out your current house if you leave it. They call that a departure property, but they want to see a lease agreement and they want to have a security deposit from the proposed renter.
Okay.
And you often have to pass an equity test, meaning that your house is not underwater, or because they don't want a risk of you buying the new place and then foreclosing on the old.
Yeah.
The buy and bail scenario. Okay, so
And guess what? When we come back, we're gonna
I still have 2 to go.
I want you to still continue, but
Good thing Mark didn't show up
I know.
today.
Because I got another story about that.
Oh boy.
Go ahead. You got.
No, I have time.
You got. Hold on here.
This is like a clown car. Things, they just keep coming out.
One thing.
All right, now we gotta go back.
Now we do have to cut to another break.
Okay.
When we come back, though, I want you to finish off your story.
Okay, cool.
Before we do, tell people how to get a hold of you. 'Cause you're a very smart guy.
Thank you. I am at RPM Mortgage in Mill Valley. Phone number is 415-367-5959. You can look me up on Yelp. If you go onto Yelp and you put in mortgage broker Marin County or mortgage broker Mill Valley, I'll come up number 1.
Oh, very good. All right. Here's our third and final trivia question. What Spanish explorer conquered Montezuma and the Aztecs? I go back to a little history for that. Call 888-912-1190. First caller with the correct answer wins that free tanning certificate. Again, the question, what Spanish explorer conquered Montezuma and the Aztecs? Don't touch that dial. When the best of investing comes back, we're going to have more stories for you. Let's look at the stories. This is actually a good show. This is funny. I mean, it's working out, you know.
Yeah, we're keeping it rolling. Thanks
Yeah.
for
Oh,
thanks
yeah.
for keeping the stories coming. Because if it was just articles, it'd be kind of boring.
Yeah, we've got to keep people engaged. I miss having Kramer here.
Yeah. What's he up to?
Oh, he's still just kind of doing his thing, but
Yeah.
he needed to kind of get paid a fair
Yeah.
amount to do this,
Yeah.
and so it was like unless somebody wanted to
Yeah.
pay him for it. Okay. Here we go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Rob Spinoza. Question: what Spanish explorer conquered Montezuma and the Aztecs?
You know, I know this, but I can't remember it, so I'm gonna just go to Cortez.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Fernando Cortez. Very good.
3 for 3.
What was his social security number?
0
because it wasn't invented yet. All right, so Rob, you were finishing up talking about buying a new home without first selling the existing one.
Right. So we were talking about qualifying all in, and then we were talking about the complexities of renting out your current place and convincing your lender that that's okay. The third option is when let's say the buyer has really good income, they could support the 2 payments, but their down payment is tied up in the equity of the sale of the existing home. So they need to sell that house to get those funds. They can use a cross-collateralized loan. And I know that private money does, Pacific Private Money does those sorts of things too. We can do those, and that gets them the down payment out. And then the third thing is bridge loan, which you guys are very familiar with. So bridge loans also use the equity in the two properties, and we have RPM has its own bridge loan, and then obviously a private money bridge loan is available. And the beauty of private money is the speed and the ability to get out from qualification hurdles. Because when we do a bridge loan at RPM, we're qualifying the borrower somewhat all in.
Yeah.
They have to prove ability to repay. They have to meet a lot of regulatory guidelines. But when it's private money, if you've got all the attributes right, that may be the way to go. So you got really 4 ways to buy before selling, and you need to speak with someone that is fluent in those, because otherwise, what you're going to hear from your agents is you can't do it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that brings up another story. So say it's exactly that situation. Contractor owned a home in Larkspur, had a lot of equity, was going to move to Novato, and didn't quite qualify for the 2 mortgages, but he did have a fair amount of equity in the old house. So Pacific Private Money was actually able to lend him 100%.
Yeah, see, that's what's
because they cross-collateralized, and when you add both houses together and subtract out the debt on the Larkspur property, it was still under 70% loan to value.
Yeah.
And since he was a contractor, he wanted to fix up the Larkspur home and sell it, and then also
put it on the market, be able to stage it, do all the good stuff, and then get top dollar for it.
And sure enough, he paid it off within 6 to 9 months. So the moral of that story is, yes, it can be done. And again, call Rob Spinoza first to see if it can be done conventionally, because obviously that'll be a less expensive way to go.
Right. So you have to think outside. Well, I think one of the things that conventional borrowers, the people that we deal with on a routine basis, most of them come in to us with a uniform mindset, in that they're looking for the best rate they can get with the most fixed years and a straightforward, easy to understand program. When you get into situations that require a lot more, there are a lot more variables, and you start talking about cross-collateralization, your financial sort of mindset needs to change. And I think that that's the one thing where, at the beginning, it may seem daunting, but the more you understand about it, the more you know, the more you get it to fit with your plan. And I think a lot of these things now, in a very tight housing market, and I've got a bunch of articles that talk about that, inventory and all that kind of stuff, it's challenging out there. And what we're finding is that it takes a little bit more ingenuity than the straightforward approach in many of these cases. Private money is certainly an aspect of that, but even conventional lenders like RPM, the loan officers like myself that know those programs are able to use that knowledge to say to a customer, ultimately you're going to end up where you want to be, but you have to do it by way of this program first.
Yeah.
So
because we do
it's evolving.
Pacific Private Money does a lot of loans where RPM will come right back in
and do the end loan.
And do the end loan.
Right.
So the rates are more expensive,
right?
But it is still legally permissible, because there's all these fancy Dodd-Frank rules that you have to fit within, but still can be done. So on the flip side, again, the borrower does have to pay a premium for that. So on the one hand, you have the borrowers; they pay a higher rate. But where does the money come from? Well, it comes from an investor. So we have the Pacific Private Money has a fund right now, and it's paying the investor net after everything about 7.75%. And the reason they pay that is because they are charging these borrowers 9+%.
It's customary
points. And they're splitting the points with the brokerage and the fund.
Right.
So the investors are basically acting like the bank, and getting part of the points. So and it's being paid out on a monthly basis. So what they're paying out in a month is more than most banks are paying in a year. Yeah.
What I was going to say, you touched on a really cool aspect of the cross-collateralization before, and I think that when people get this is where I see the light go on. Like, oh wow, let's say they're trapped in that situation where they have a house they need to sell and a house they want to buy, and they love the house they want to buy, but they can't sell in time, and it's all sprung upon them. And you start talking to them about cross-collateralization, you can see their eyes kind of glaze over. What does this mean? Some fancy loan. But then what you can do is you can tell them, look, I'll give you an example. You hit the nail on the head with 100% financing. Let's say you have a property, the property you want to buy is worth 1.2, right? Yeah. And you have an existing home, it's worth $800K. Okay, so you have $2 million of total value between the two homes, right? So we'll do a 75% cross-collateral on that, right? So we'll make a maximum loan of 1.5 in that circumstance, okay? So let's say the
Okay, yeah, because you're assuming. Well, in that example, they own the other property free and clear.
no, I'm going to tell you about
gotcha,
that. So let's say they have
okay.
a $300,000 loan on that other
Gotcha.
property. Okay.
Okay. I know
So
what you
now
mean.
you're going to net that 300 out.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a 1.5 loan, but it's going to pay off the 300K, leaving them
1.2. Hey, that's the coincidence. What a coincidence!
What a
That's the problem. That's the
So
purchase of the new home.
So that's the purchase of the new home. So they're going to go in and they're going to buy that new home with closing costs, right? Because the loan is going to pay for the new home outright.
Yeah.
And that's where you see the glaze goes away, and they're like, whoa, wait a second. So I'm going to make the payment on this single loan, and I'm going to buy this house outright.
So now they can actually go to the seller of the house that they want to buy and make a very quick offer.
Yeah.
It's not-
Well, you could with private money. So with us, it's going to be a more traditional 30-day type of close situation. Okay. But still, they're going in. And then the other piece of it, that private money, I think, deals with in a different way, but the end result is the same. In our example there, that loan that they made, the 1.5 loan, when they sell the existing house, there's going to be a 75% release point on that 800K. That's 600K.
Yeah.
That's going to go back into the note and recast it down to 900,000.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, after they sell, they're left with a $900,000 loan
on $1.2 million,
on $1.2 million, 75%. And they've got the house they want, all with one transaction without a refinance, and they bought it for the cost of their closing.
Smoking hot deal.
It's a pretty cool deal,
Yeah.
and you have to understand how it works. You have to be willing to say, okay, this is what I'm going to need to do to make this work. Because the other option is to let the house go, put your house on the market, move twice, and all the other things that drive
too
a
much
buyer
of a
crazy.
hassle. Well, okay, so again, you call RPM Mortgage first. What's your number?
415-367-5959.
Okay. And if for some reason you can't do it, then
Private money?
Pacific Private Money at 415-883-2150. And again, they can accommodate quite a number of real estate purchases.
I mean, that's what's happening out there right now. You know, it's for buyers out there. You know, we hear this day in and day out. There's every reason to be optimistic. If you see a property like you should make an offer on it, you should get pre-approved, you should get underwriting approved with us if you can. That's great, but you know, you are going to face the challenges that this market brings. We live in a high-cost area. There's limited inventory. Things move quickly. You can't wring your hands about things. You know, your inspections, your appraisal, and that sort of stuff. It's aggressive out there right now, and you need to be armed with the knowledge to do things that will allow you to get where you want to go.
Good.
Yeah.
And again, that's on the borrowing side. That's how you get money. And on the investing side, if you want to earn 7.75%,
It's not a bad deal either.
Not a bad deal. With this kind of conservative type of loans,
Because what's the
Not a bad
average
deal.
in the fund now? So
56% loan to value. Yeah, it's very, very conservative. No losses.
yeah,
So-
I don't think we see 56 LTVs on most of our deals.
I know.
It's
That's
a
why it's
rarity.
more, a lot of times it's more conservative
More
than the
conservative,
bank does. So call 415-883-2150 for more information there. Don't touch that dial. The best in investing will be right back. Okay. So we have time for like an article or two?
Okay.
No touch.
What's that?
I no touch. Away we go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Rob Spinoza. Rob, we got a few minutes left. You got an article. I have another story, but we'll go to.
I'm just glad there's not another trivia question because
Yeah.
I'm 3 for 3 and I don't want to blow it. I found an article, and some of you may have seen it in the news, and it's I think this entity is more beleaguered than the Attorney General these days. It's Wells Fargo, and it talked about how Wells was under the gun for charging extra fees on some of the mortgages they made, which was tied to rate locks.
Okay.
And I wanted to bring that up, not to pile on Wells Fargo, because I think what Wells does, they do really well, and certainly, you know, case by case, all of this stuff. You have to hear the other side of the story. But I wanted people to understand a little bit more about how rate locks work. And what they claim Wells Fargo was doing is they were charging borrowers for a rate lock extension that came as a result of the bank's delay. So they were passing on their delay to the consumer. And a rate lock works simply like this. When you go into the home loan process, you will lock an interest rate at some point, and when you do that, it will be for a certain amount of days, typically 30, okay, 30, 45, 60.
Right.
Those are common rate lock periods, with rate locks on the shorter timelines being more aggressive, relatively speaking, because the less amount of time a lender has money exposed to market risk, the more competitive he can be.
Sure.
Okay, so what they were claiming Wells did is these people would go into the home loan process, they would lock their loan for 30 days, the bank would be slow to process the application, et cetera, then they would pass the 30-day period, and then they would say, okay, well, in order to extend your rate lock, it's going to cost you 1/8%.
Well,
Okay.
hold on. If you weren't so slow in processing,
Right,
it wouldn't have mattered.
right,
Okay.
exactly. So what happened is there was sort of an uprising against that practice of charging the rate lock extension to the consumer. So the moral of the story here, again, is not to get on Wells. It's to say that when you go into the process, especially on the refinance side, because on a purchase, your contract is really dictating the timing of your transaction, okay? But on a refinance, you may go out on the internet and you may see pricing that's promoted out there as being very aggressive, and it's important to ask, how long is that valid for? Is that a 30-day rate lock? Is it a 45-day rate lock? Because some of these institutions won't get your loan done in 30 days, and so they'll say, oh, well, our rate is 4%, and it's and it looks better than everybody else, but then they're going to come back to you 20 days into that transaction and say, oh, we're not going to make the cutoff, and therefore you have to pay to extend your lock.
And why can't they get it done in 30 days? Are they just teasing you to try to do that?
The reasons could be any, and some of them are valid, some of them are not. Sometimes there's just negligence. Other times it's legitimate stuff like you didn't tell them that you had a subordinate lien.
Well, that's your fault, not the bank's.
Right, and then they're processing it, et cetera. So sometimes it's you didn't know, you had an IRS thing you didn't know. I mean, there could be any number of reasons.
Okay, again, that's not their fault.
That's not their fault. But when you have a bank, volume was always the one back in the day with the refinance volume. All of a sudden, you take on a barrage of applications and you can't get through them all. Generally speaking, regulation has made it harder to deal with any sort of changes to pricing. So it's very important that when you talk with a loan officer, you identify how long you think it's realistically going to take. Are you going to be on trips?
You can get it in writing that there's a 30-day lock, but they were not going to give you in writing that they will get the loan done in 30 days.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And so be sensitive to timing, because as we say in real estate, time is of the essence.
They say
Time is of the essence.
All right, here we go. Here's our thoughts. A good show, Rob. Good
Thank
show.
you.
Here's our thoughts for the day. Groucho Marx said, politics is the art of looking for trouble, finding it everywhere, diagnosing it incorrectly, and applying the wrong remedy. The man who knew what he was talking about. And Benjamin Franklin here again said, I like this one too, we are all born ignorant, but one must work hard to remain stupid. As stupid is as stupid does. Forrest Gump.
John Wayne said, life is tough, and it's tougher when you're stupid.
He was also, he also knew what he was talking about.
Yep.
Very smart man. Okay, again, give out your information, Rob.
415-367-5959 with RPM Mortgage right in Mill Valley off the 101. Call anytime. Happy to help.
All right. Yeah. And if you want to get a hold of Pacific Private Money, either you need to borrow money and can't get it from the bank, or RPM, 415-883-2150. Or if you want to invest your money and get a nice 7.75% return that they're paying, check them out, 415-883-2150.
Can you pop in the office in Grant and ask about
Yes, you can. Okay, right on 1555 Grand Avenue in Nevada. All right, tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away more free prizes for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. So long. Go. Yeah, it's a bit over. That's okay.
Do 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 do.